So, does your body count actually matter in the sexual marketplace?
Oh, it's so hot. I have a girlfriend that does this, that, and the other, and then when they're really at home and I'm like on OnlyFans or on a call with a client or whatever, they're like, "No, this is weird. This is weird." You know what I mean? And that, I think it's an insecurity, yes, because you knew where I was coming from, you knew what I was doing, and you weren't okay with it. Then you should have made that a point.
Well, I mean, I suppose you have a point that, I mean, if they knew going in that this is what you do for work, you're a stripper, or you're doing OnlyFans, or you're doing sex work, then I think it's a little bit of a stretch that all of a sudden a couple weeks.
While there, I did not know how to approach, how to title this video or how to actually approach the actual topic itself, especially seeing how it is that I'm just what a lot of these very, very young Gen Zers would call a boomer. But then again, at the same time, I've also got a lot more life experience than a lot of these types. So yeah, I think it's time I actually answer this question and actually get in this topic and show you what somebody who's actually older and has actually been in the field actually understands. Now, being in the field does not mean that you've actually been successful. Let's just go ahead and say that's a hit or miss thing. But anytime you actually go out and you actually approach the opposite sex, guess what? It's always going to be a hit or miss. I don't care what any type of PUA tells you. So let's go ahead and talk about this. So we've had several videos, and I'm kind of coming back to the whole body count thing here, because if you guys saw my previous video on does body count really matter, then you guys might already have an idea of exactly where I'm going at with this. Don't worry, I'll link it in the description box as well as the other videos I've been doing on this topic. Now, before we get started, I want to go ahead and outline the weekend's videos, because the next three videos, including this one here, are all going to be for the most part about this topic. We're going to be talking about body count in the sexual marketplace in this video here. The last video is going to be the are women the true gatekeepers of sex and relationships? And of course, we're also going to be diving into a special video sometime tomorrow about the actual sexual marketplace itself, and why it is that men don't want somebody who has delusions, grandeurs, and of course, to go on top of this, an extremely sordid past. But then again, at the same time, I can also understand why women would not want the same thing. Of course, I'm going to try to be absolutely fair about this entire topic. With that right there being said, though, let's go ahead and dive into this. If you watched my video on does body count actually matter, one thing that I kept relaying over in that video was something called trust. You need to have a certain amount of trust. Now, I can see a situation where a girl may have actually had a bunch of bodies in her past, and all of a sudden she saw Jesus and she actually got reformed. I even let you guys know in that situation that I was still very, very, very scared, and of course still a little bit concerned. But then again, at the same time, once you get older, things begin to change. Now, in no way, shape, or form am I endorsing or going away from what I said. I'm just simply throwing it out there that as you get older, things do in fact change. However, you should still obviously be very, very picky, and obviously a body count should in fact matter. Like I said before, the last thing you want to be married to is a woman who's got a graveyard full of skeletons about the size of maybe I don't know, the killing fields in Cambodia. Maybe that right there may not be the best way of saying things, but quite frankly, at this point in time, I really and truly don't care, especially seeing how YouTube's community guidelines and standards operate. So, you got to be real with people. Fact of the matter is this right here. Body count in the marketplace, especially the sexual marketplace, does in fact matter. It matters a lot. There are some of those out there who do prefer a little bit of experience. Now, guys, I'm going to let the next 2 minutes and 13 seconds kind of run here. We're going to come back on the other side and kind of give an understanding why it is somebody may want somebody with a higher, but then again, though, why it is that is also dangerous and why that is also risky, especially in today's marketplace.
Jackson super chatted $50. It's worse now, you all convince yourselves you even don't want men or children at all now, so obviously the more bodies you have,
I don't think
more
that's what's
likely
being
couples are to
said.
break up.
Okay.
I don't want kids.
So, but you're saying there's not a correlation. What
I'm
are you?
saying that
body count
correlation
and
is
what?
not causation. So the body count does not mean that because they have a high body count, that means they causes them to be dissatisfied or be less bonding. I think that the people that they might have seen, that could be a correlative thing. That could be that because they have a higher body count, that correlates to maybe they aren't bonding as intimately with other people. But that also is that one study. There's so many other studies that can contradict that one thing that psychology states, as they're saying, because that's just how it is most of the time.
How do you isolate the control group in that experiment? Genuinely.
I'll talk about the correlation causation thing here in a second. As you guys probably saw in that clip, that was meant to be the 2-minute 13-second clip. My bad. However, it actually works out perfectly because it does actually give me the opportunity to actually go through the correlation causation section here in a second. But there is another little thing that was said in roughly 2 minutes and 13 seconds that I'll play here in a minute about overall body count, because somebody did bring this up. Let me go ahead and say this really quick about the correlation causation section. There are a lot of scientific studies that obviously disagree with what she said. Correlation is not causation. No. A person's behavior, a person's past behavior can oftentimes indicate exactly what a person is going to act like in the near future, okay? It's obviously something that can kind of explain certain little triggers, like if a woman would actually like run around you, cheat on you, whatnot. Same thing with a guy too. It actually swings both ways. If a man has got a history of being a player, don't be surprised if he does not actually run around on you. Ladies, you need to do a better job of vetting that out. Same thing with men. If your girl has got a very, very assorted, shady past where she sleeps around, guess what? Chances are there's probably going to be some problems there, and chances are you may already have immediate mistrust factors. Go ahead and go back to the previous video where I talked about, and I mentioned it a few times, that these girls, which by the way some men may have a fetish for dating, that right there being these ladies who have these let's say they're like sex workers, whatnot, and porn stars, whatever. It may seem fun at first to date that girl, but of course after the weekend, if you choose to get serious with a girl, I mean, what is it the episode of The King of the Hill said a long time ago? I mean, let me just remind you.
Yo, what you want for that Jasper brunette?
That is my wife.
Man, that's the biggest mistake a pimp could make. Marrying one of his hoes.
Yeah, you don't want to. You don't want to marry one of these hoes. And I get it. Okay, I get it. There's a lot of women out there who have obviously been doing a lot of hoeing and whatnot. But at the same time, though, it's not a good idea to get involved with somebody who's got that type of past. Now, I understand as you get older, a body count is probably going to get much, much higher. We'll probably discuss that more in the Gatekeepers of Sex video, which is probably going to be the last video that I do on this topic for a while, because I don't want to come off over here and let you guys on to believe that I'm some red pill manosphere guy when that's not actually the case. I'm a guy who discusses just about every single issue on the docket. The thing is this right here. Body count in the sexual marketplace does in fact matter, and most people of course don't really know what the opposite number's body count is going to be, which is also a problem with online dating. Of course, everybody tends to put things out there and go ahead and state their preferences, even though their preferences may be a little bit delusional. It's always best to actually go out there and actually meet somebody and actually begin to learn things about them and let the little bits about their personality and their past come out, and then after a while you begin to make your own judgment. Time though, you may be finding out a little bit too much, but then again though, you also may find yourself being pleasantly surprised. The thing about relationships is this right here. If you're getting a relationship to get married, oftentimes you find yourself in a position to where you don't know what to expect. I mean, it's not like you can date a girl for a month, try her out, and then all of a sudden toss her to the curb thinking you're probably not going to get in love with her. You never know. You may be involved with this girl maybe 3 or 4 times, maybe like 3 or 4 dates, 4 or 5 dates, whatever. Next thing you know, you might find yourself getting attached to her, and you may want to give it a shot. Fact of the matter is that dating and relationships itself is kind of a game that you have to play, as in you have to find what you feel, what you actually feel works, and you have to actually work at it. And of course, over time, the situation will take care of itself. Now, one thing I will say, though, is that there is this thing called toxicity, which, by the way, does exist. I've been in toxic relationships where the other party made their toxicity made me toxic, and of course, I had to get out of that one. I'll go ahead and kind of tell you exactly what my love life looked like. The first serious one I got into, she kicked me to the curb. The second serious one I got into was a little bit more mutual. The third one I got into, I kicked her to the curb. Now, this does not include the flings or whatnot, the times I've been rejected or rejected other, but the fact of the matter is, as you get older, you will be able to pick up on certain little triggers, certain little signs, certain little things let you know if something should be actually pursuable or not. This kind of goes back to the whole marriage thing. I keep saying that right now marriage does not look like it's worth it for a man, but then again, though, at the same time, I don't want men to flat out give up. And the reason why I don't want them to give up is very, very simply put, because quite frankly, it's about creating a legacy. It's about finding someone you love. It's about sharing that love, all that type of good stuff. However, you need to be wary of what you share it with. As I've said before, and you're going to hear me say it again more and more and more, their past is a great idea and a great indicator of what the future is going to, in fact, look like. It is. This is exactly what it does. It actually helps determine that. You don't want someone who's got a cavalcade of bodies and a whole entourage of dicks out there, and you definitely don't want someone who's got a bunch of those that they can go back to at any point in time. With that right there being said, though, now let's get to the 2-minute and 13-second clip.
A lot of the time, guys are actually quite repulsed by girls who have like a high body count. It's something that's like we're internally, inherently very repulsed by.
I mean,
So,
it's just kind of could go the same
youth,
way
beauty, and
as-
fertility.
I
It
think-
could,
I
but
think
it
with
not.
women,
not-
it kind of comes down to, I mean, obviously, like guys, like when it comes to men courting women, like the woman that like only a certain amount of men can get, like it kind of shows the value of how many men she's allowed in her physical
Exactly. It's a
space in
very
that way.
attractive thing. If you meet a girl who's got a lot of self-control like that, it makes you feel like, that you've earned something, And if you don't feel like you've earned it, then it's not really that special. So
But-
scarcity is important.
Are you
Supply
saying
and
that
demand.
like being on the other end of like you also have that same discipline, or like you just expect that, but you that's not what
Me
you're bringing
personally, or are you talking guys in general?
I mean, you at the moment, since
Yeah? Well,
you were asking the question.
I probably was a little bit crazier back in the day. These days, I'm a little bit more sort of reserved about it. But I don't think it is as big a problem for guys as it is for girls.
So if it was reversed and the girl that you were dating used to be a little crazier, body count's still there.
It depends how crazy, really. It depends how crazy.
So
If we're
it's
talking,
same
if we're
crazy
talking
as your
three,
level
if we're
crazy.
no,
You
no,
wouldn't
hell no,
care?
I wouldn't look at that. No.
That's kind of crazy.
No, it's
to
but
me.
the thing is though, men and women are different. It's different standards. That we're
Yeah.
not the same. We have different things. Like for example, I don't care how much money you guys make, but women care how much money we make. I care about your past. You care about my future. It's very different.
Do you make a lot of money?
Well, it depends what you consider a lot of money.
Do you like to spoil your girl?
I don't have a girl, but if I did have a girl, yes, I'd spoil her.
Okay, well then I feel like that's why you don't care, because that's your love language.
What do you mean why I don't care?
Like that's why you don't care if they don't make enough money.
But I think
Oh, no,
most,
no, no.
most men in
that's
general
different.
are not really particularly preoccupied with the income that their partner
Right,
makes.
because they like to be in charge.
Well, I think it just comes
Not
down
necessarily,
to.
but
I think it just comes down to like kind of the different roles. I mean, it depends on like people. I guess how you feel about like more traditional gender roles, but
Most men would prefer not to have someone who was, how do I say, has a lot of bodies. Most people would not do that. He's actually correct. A lot of men look at a lot of women with a lot of bodies like that, especially given the fact if they have a high body account that is, of course, not through sex work, which, by the way, makes it even more repulsive because it just seems like she's just screwing to be screwing, because at that point in time, you also know that she's very, very easy. We love sexual discipline. We like a woman who's actually got some serious, honest to God discipline. That is what we prefer. We would prefer a woman who's got some form of discipline. Also meaning that we would prefer that not only does it tell us that she's disciplined in the bedroom, it also kind of indicates to us that she's disciplined in other areas. Meaning that she's disciplined probably with her money. She's probably disciplined with her decisions. We want a woman who's actually got some form of discipline. And to the ladies out there, if you are still watching, I want to go ahead and say this right now. You having discipline is extremely sexy. I mean, it is. It is actually extremely sexy. I mean, it really and truly is a very sexy thing for a woman to have, is some form of discipline. I mean, it is, because as you are disciplined, it also lets us, it kind of helps keep us in check. I know some guys are probably going to get a little upset with me saying that, especially the more bro-code type guys. But the thing is this right here. If I have a woman who sets some boundaries on me, I'm more than likely, and granted, of course, I'm going to have boundaries put on her too. Don't just think that I'm going to let her put boundaries on me. No. you are going to have to, if you want to be with me, you're going to have to respect the boundaries that I put in place. I don't want you out there mingling with every dude in the world. I'm kind of like what Jonah Hill had. I don't want you doing all that, okay? If I get involved with you and you've quit that section of your life, of course, that includes the bikini modeling and stuff, then I'm going to want you to adhere to the boundaries that I set aside. I set these boundaries so that way you can get with me. I'm the one who's kind of in charge here. However, I'm still at the same time as a man, even though I'm the one who's in charge, there are going to be obviously some boundaries that she's going to put in place, like, for example, how to act, how to be in front of her family, for example. Obviously, she doesn't want to be embarrassed. They did the normal type stuff. I mean, ladies, if we're going to set boundaries for you, obviously you're going to have some boundaries. I mean, it's just natural that that's going to happen. But still, though, if you're very, very disciplined, it only makes us want you more. I mean, ladies, develop some freaking discipline. Stop sleeping with every Tom, Dick, Harry, Jawan, Jeffrey, James, Ron, Jerome, getting your back blown out by who the hell ever. I do want to discuss the topic of experience really quick before I close this video down, because I know this video is getting a little bit higher. Experience in the sexual marketplace, I think, is something that works out more for men than it does for women. Let me just go ahead and break this down for you. Any man who wants a woman with a high body count is, I don't know what's wrong with you, dude. Maybe you're not being serious. I mean, maybe you don't want a family or whatnot. Maybe you just want to screw around and you prefer a girl who's got a little bit more experience. I'm the type of guy that would actually rather have a woman that she can learn from me, and I can actually, we can kind of operate off of one another. Maybe that might be a little bit naive. But I like a woman, and because trust me, I've had a woman that knew more than I did before it did not work out. Okay, she just ended up going to the next guy. I've also had the girl who also I didn't know as much as I knew a little bit more from the previous one. That didn't work out either. And of course, I may have mentioned it before, but I've also had the toxic ones. The truth is this right here: as a man, you should probably want the girl that you know a little bit more than, and obviously, as a girl, you would want to learn type things from them. This whole topic of the girl being experienced, yes, we don't want someone who's completely inexperienced, but also at the same time, we don't want somebody who is so freaking experienced that they know more than us, that they can actually go around us and they can use the tricks of the trade that they have learned without us being around against us. I just figured I'd go ahead and answer that. This type of stuff, that's the reason why it is that body count does in fact matter in the sexual marketplace. Now, guys, I'm not going to close the video out yet, but before I do that, I do want to get one last point in, and this right is going to be a bit of a primer for tomorrow's video, which is about the sexual marketplace, as in, are ladies the actual gatekeepers of sex and relationships? Which, by the way, I may just go ahead and file into one long video, but I want you guys to see this really quick.
Because here's the thing, I'm
no,
serious.
the fat phobia is
very
real.
true.
It's very real.
Men look at me, they see that I have a tummy. I'm 5'8". I'm a pretty tall woman.
Okay, but let me ask you a question. So, okay, you say that, yet you said you've had nearly 300 sexual partners. You said 290.
Yeah. But okay, but
you can't say if you've had that many partners, 290 or whatever. Mm-hmm. You can't say that you've had a difficult time.
Yes, I can.
Getting laid.
You don't know my life, Brian. Yeah. I have had such
You're 23.
I'm 21.
300 bodies, and yet you're 21 years old. So what age did she lose her virginity? I'm gonna take a wild guess and say that what happened is that sex got open to her when she was like 17. She probably liked it a little bit too much. That same girl, and by the way, we'll talk more about this when we get to the actual who's the actual gatekeeper. We'll get to that more in the very, very next video. But the thing is this right here: 300 bodies and yet you're 21 years old. Why do you think I put that picture of that college kid being thrown through the door or flying through the door? Because that's actually what it is. By the way, if you watched that entire episode of the podcast, then you would know that particular girl said that she had about 300 bodies, and then later on, and by the way, Brian would keep trying to, every time she'd pop up to say something, Brian would kind of shut her down, and she seemed a little bit aloof, everything like she didn't realize that she was being shut down. The thing that I found very odd about that particular girl in that context is that she actually started out by saying she was a big girl, 5'8", kind of thick, and that men typically did not want to sleep around with her. But yet it seems to me like every man has been with you, and she also said she had a hard time getting it, which is very, very weird because she'd had 300 different partners, A very, 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 very weird dichotomy here. So, fact of the matter is this right here. This right here is the reason why your overall body count does, in fact, matter in the marketplace. Can you imagine being involved with this girl and then you just kind of like turned her down for one night and then she got upset, said, okay, I kind of need this really, really bad. If I can't get it from you, I'm going to get it from somewhere else. I mean, there are times where you might be a little bit tired, hard day's work, 3 or 4 days in a row, you know, you hadn't seen your wife, hadn't seen her, hadn't seen your kids, whatnot, and you've been working your ass off, and the next thing you know, you ain't home for 3 days. She ain't had it in 3 days, and she went out and she got it, and then of course you ask her, and she said, "Well, you rejected me." That's kind of the reason why it is that body count does matter in the sexual marketplace. I mean, if she's got too many bodies, especially given the fact that she's only 21 years old. Yeah, that right there is a bit of an experience issue. Is something that you might want. It is definitely not something that you want too much of when dealing with the opposite sex. I can see where ladies might want somebody who's a little bit more experienced, but guys who want a girl who's got a little bit too much experience could be a bit of a problem. As I've said before, it's about trust. And obviously, someone's past is obviously the best indicator of what said individual's future is going to look like. With that right there, guys, I'm going to go ahead and halt this video now. I'm going to try to have 1 to 2 videos out tomorrow. It's possible that what may happen is that I may just make one longer video and put it out tomorrow evening. And of course, there's the Death of ESPN project that I've been working on for a while. I got to kind of scratch things together. I hope to have that one out on Sunday. I'm hoping to have anywhere between 2 to 3 videos out this weekend. It may just be 2, meaning that the 2 videos I had put together may just become 1 because I'm about to go ahead and go record them. And of course, the Death of ESPN video is set to come out on Sunday afternoon. Make sure you guys hit that like button if you like what you heard. If you want to subscribe to this channel, please consider subscribing. Please hit the notification bell so that way you guys are notified when the videos come out. Share the video with family and friends. Also, something else too, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section. I would love to get you guys' thoughts on this. Where am I wrong at? And I'll see you guys later.